thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here. Look, today we've got like one of the foremost, I'm not saying this because of age, because I get this all the time, but like the grandfathers of funding. Like him and I have been doing this a long time. We've been friends a long time. We've done business together a long time. He's really one of the guys that was one of the original founders of credit card stacking, if you're familiar with it, which you more than likely are because you're watching the show. So it's a real honor to be able to have him on with us today. With us today is Darrell Hornbacher. Now, Darrell is actually the founder and president of Midas Financial Company, which is actually one of the nation's longest standing unsecured business loan brokerage firms. So he's got over 22 years of experience in alternative financing. He's widely recognized as like the industry pioneer, especially as I mentioned when it comes to stacking, having created the original 0% business credit card stacking platform and launching it back in 2004. Under his leadership, Midas Financial has facilitated more than 42,500 funding and credit transactions. They've secured over $2 billion in capital for entrepreneurs nationwide. And his journey into finance began while preparing to sell a business and financing traditional lending barriers, which then inspired his mission to help others access flexible funding solutions. Darrell's actually overseen the restoration of over 37,000 personal credit profiles. I think that's where him and I met way back in the day. It is known for developing customized capital strategies that empower business owners to scale, grow, and dare to dream bigger is one of his mottos. So Darrell, what's up, man? It's good seeing you.
Good morning. Gosh, we go back so long, and I still will never forget the last time we met in person was in Vegas, and that was like, 2017 or 18, something like that at the BLBA. And I think about you all the time, and I recommend you to people. It's been a great relationship and fun times.
Yeah, it has been. Just remember what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. We're just going to leave
Absolutely.
that right here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, it was all the time running into you in BLBA. You know, what I love is that I'm interested in your take because we've been doing this a long, long time. I don't even remember if it's the consumer credit world that we met initially or the lending world. I think we met back in the consumer credit world. I think before before, I mean, that was like pre me even getting into the business lending side. So what I think is interesting is that credit card stacking 0% is blowing up in the last 2 years. I'm sure you've noticed, like so many people are getting into this space. And I'm just curious, like you're the guy, like you were doing this 22 years ago. You're the first guy I know of, the original guy that did 0% credit card stacking. So I'm interested to know, like, what's your take? What's your perception with the popularity that it is now, considering like you're the grandfather of it?
Well, that's a mixed bag. Quite frankly, the industry has changed so much. There is so much corruption is the wrong word. There's just some bad apples in the industry right now, and it's a little bit disappointing that where the industry is going. It's also been greatly affected by MCAs, which you're way familiar with, it's just there's a lot of competition. When I first hung my shingle out, I was the only one. Now there's 20,000 people out there promoting credit card stacking, and not many of them have the altruistic ideals in mind. They're more looking at how much money can I make and how quick can I make it, charging obscene upfront fees. And it's just been an interesting last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So what we make, and I see everything that you're saying too. It's interesting because I used to always say that I wanted business credit to become well-known and more people pick it up and they were influencers and share it into the world so more people could access it. And now I'm like, wow, I regret ever thinking that because like, you know what it is, like a lot of the people out there are unscrupulous people, or in all fairness, they don't know what they're doing. Like they're trying, they just don't even know what they're doing. And then they're out there representing clients and helping clients when they're with just bad information, which I think you see in the stacking game as well. So I love that we share that because both of us are like, yeah, we this is a great way to help people get money. And now we look at the people sometimes in the space that offer that and we're like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't have, maybe, be careful what you wish.
Yeah, it's all about, I made a post on Facebook a couple weeks ago about greed. And that was specifically, but I didn't come out and say credit card stacking. I just said greed in America will be our downfall or something like that. But I watched these guys, most of them were still in diapers when I wrote my first credit card stack. And they are so, they've got their fist fan of $100 bills out there posing in front of a rented Ferrari or Lambo. And then you go to their website and watch them talk, and yeah, that's just a whole nother segment. But the bottom line is, then I look at it and they're charging these people, scores of thousands of dollars in some cases, and making them pay the fees up front. And I'm like, gosh, I founded this company on the idea that if I didn't do my due, they weren't going to pay. And it's completely changed. I would say probably 25% of our clients have been taken advantage of in the whole loan industry, let's say, but primarily MCAs and credit card stacks. But 25% of our business comes from those people that got taken advantage of, and now we have to go fix them before we can fund them. And that's just a sad thing, because the horror stories and the amount of money they spent for nothing is pretty disturbing.
So what made you think of this back in the day? Like, can you remember that far back of like where the idea originally came from? Give me an idea.
Yeah. So the 2.5 minute story is, I owned a business with my brother, who was my best friend, and we were having challenges with each other for that. We don't need to get into that, but we're having challenges with each other. So we went to sell, and they said, well, your business is worth about 500,000. We're like, that's not going to work. And the business broker said, by the way, if you do this and this and this, we can sell it for a couple $1,000,000, which was right in tune with what we wanted to do. So we went out, and that required us to get a $125,000 loan. So we went to the bank. I had 800 credit. I had a $90,000 BMW that was paid for. At the time, a $300,000 house was a big deal, and I had that, and it was paid for. And they're like, okay, which one of these will you pledge? Well, we both go back to our wives at the time, and they're like, oh, no, you're not pledging my house. So we were sitting in our office, didn't get a secured loan. We're sitting in our office. A young lady walks in, and she says, I sell money. How much do you want? Just like that. And I still use that slogan today. But how about I sell money? How much do you want? Well, we need this, but we were told we were not fundable. And she says, why? Do you have bad credit? I said, no, my credit's 805. And I don't owe a penny to the world. And she says, sign here. I didn't even fill out the application. She says, sign here. I'll be back in 72 hours with $125,000. 56 hours later, she's back. She's literally, this was when the banks were giving, you didn't even have to come into the bank or do electronic stuff. You just signed the paper, and she handed me the checkbook, and that was it. And so I wrote the check. We sold the business for $2.2 million. And now I've got a bunch of money in the bank, and I'm not doing anything. That was like my 12th business. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next. And I told a couple of my buddies to go get this loan, and they got it. So I paid her, by the way, a commission of $3,000 on 150. She got me 150, and that was the point spread. So I called her, and I said, I want to take you to lunch. We go to lunch. And I said, I'm just letting you know as a gentleman that this business there's something here, and we can help a ton of people. And I want you to know I am going to be one of your competitors. And she said, Darrell, well, first of all, you're not a competitor. I work directly from the bank. You're saying you want to open a loan brokerage, number one. Number two, I'm pregnant, my husband, and it's going to be a traumatic pregnancy, and my husband doesn't want me working. So I'll tell you what, you give me another $3,000, I'll teach you everything I know. That transpired. By the end of that was in April of 2004. By October of 2004, we had 7 offices and 100 employees nationwide. That's it. That's how it started. That's how it started. Simple as that.
Did you start with stacking, or what kind of funding were you offering?
We started actually, that was Ty. I don't know if you'll remember this or not, but back then, every bank in the country had a stated income, stated asset, 50,000 or $100,000 line of credit. It was feeding all of the fix and flips, which was in its infancy. So we figured out what one of my salespeople, my best salespeople, I was paying her $250,000 a year back in 2005 and 6 and 7. And she could sell ice to an Eskimo. And she's like, this 50 grand is great, but there's got to be a way that we can get these people will take 200 or 300 grand. So we literally, this is the first platform. You're hearing this first. We had a 10 by 10 room with a dozen fax machines in it. And we would fill out a report. And you know what the credit game was like back then. Inquiries took 36 hours to show up. So we had a dozen fax machines. We would copy off a dozen applications. We'd put one application in each fax machine, each one hot red line to a certain bank. And then we would call each bank. Our admin would get on the phone and say, I'm sending a fax. You got to deal with it in the next 2 hours. And she'd do that 5 times, 7 times, 10 times, whatever the case warranted. And when everybody said yes, she'd just go around pump, 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 and fax each application at the exact same time to a dozen different banks. They'd get the application, they'd act on it immediately. The left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, and north didn't know what south was going on. And that was it. That was the first platform. Compared to the technology you and I have today, it was archaic.
Well, but that also is what made it possible, so effective, because they didn't know there was days for them to catch up to what was even going on. Whereas now you don't have that luxury because they're all communicating with each other that they didn't at that level. So that's so interesting. Like, what made you go with credit? Did you start with credit cards, or were you just applying for loans or credit cards, like everything? What made you hone in on 0% credit cards?
Yeah, so we were stacking loans. So it was originally loan stack, or BLOC, business line of credit stacking. At the same time, I was in, sort of when we met was basically over affiliate marketing type stuff. And I think we have 9 different affiliate marketing websites right now that we market various products around credit and funding, whatever. But when I found out that American Express at the time was paying a $300 affiliate marketing fee, and to someone if you recommended American Express card. So then I started searching in all these Chase. Everybody was given $50 to $500 in affiliate commissions, and I was hooked up with an infamous gentleman. He's still around, but he was the number one affiliate marketer in the world, Armand Morin. He lives down in North Carolina now, and he still does stuff. And I met Armand at a seminar, an internet marketing seminar. I was an internet marketing junkie by then. And I met Armand, and I paid the extra $500. That's what it was at that time. That was a lot of money. But I paid the extra $500 to get an hour in the room with him. And he did a business analysis, and a day later, that was in Atlanta in 2005. Or 2004, end of 2004. And the next day he said, I want to take your product to the internet. And I'm like, really? And I still have it. I said, I should have sent you a thing and prep for this. I still have the original front page of that website, and I post it on a regular basis when I want to, talk about nostalgic stuff. But so he went out, and basically all we did was put 50 different credit cards at 0%, on a website, and we instructed people how to simultaneously apply for as many as 10 different credit cards, get them all. And now all of a sudden, and back then it was 2 years at 0% uh, funding. And so we were able to, we were making our first month, I'll never forget it, our first month. This is in end of 2004. We made $73,500 on affiliate commissions for stacking credit cards. And it went up from there. It was stupid. It was so much fun. I'm like, because you know how it is. They still talk about it today. Mailbox money. We all want mailbox money, and yeah, that was how it started. And then it just took off. All of a sudden, everybody's got a website up, and I had aligned myself with. One of the other guys, he's still a friend of mine today. We talk weekly. Marty Dickinson was one of the original money website developers, and he put, we still do stuff together, and that's been 22 years ago, and we still know each other, and we still do stuff together. And yeah, we were killing it, just killing it.
Oh, those are the heyday. That's the heyday. The fun times. I remember the pre-mortgage crisis when things were like
same thing. Wild. It was the wild, wild west. And now there's a couple things coming back that we have on the drawing board right now. I mean, we represent one bank that is half the rate of an SBA guaranteed line of credit, and no stated income, stated asset. It isn't no doc, but it's really low doc, and they're doing WSJ plus 0.95. So the interest rate's like 7.5%, and
wow.
and we're going crazy with it. And so yeah, it's interesting to see that the circle is coming around, because I haven't seen this product in I don't know, 15, 18 years since the crash of '08. It has not been out. And now these guys, they have some checks and balances in place. But when it first came out, I said, oh my God, this is one of the things that caused the crash back in 2008. Because as you know, no, it wasn't just writing mortgages to bad people that didn't deserve them, or the derivatives that were created with those bad mortgages and sold on Wall Street. The third kind of it was these stated income, stated asset loans that WAMU went out of business because of those business loans back in the day. But everybody was doing it, and all of a sudden when it crashed, it crashed.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I love talking to you because we lived it. Like I was in the early 2000s as well, through all of that on the consumer side. I've been on the commercial side. You've grown Midas to be a powerhouse, and now you don't just do those kind of loans. You do a lot of different kind of financing. So bring it forward. What kind of financing are you helping big business owners with now?
So we've done some major pivots, because the other thing you've got to remember with the credit card stacking, the banks are onto some of this stuff, and although it's not illegal in any way, shape, or form, it's not activity they really will ever endorse. So they are, cutting limits, making it harder. There's this thing called algorithms, and now everybody knows everything about everybody else. So that's changed, but we've pivoted more into larger deals. We're doing a lot of commercial real estate lending. We're doing a lot of hard money lending but I call it hard money with a conscience. We still stay out of MCAs. Midas has written 5 MCAs in 22 years. That's it. I don't believe in them. I think they're the bane of American small business, and they're destroying lives. And I don't want my name associated with any of that type of thing. So yeah, we're just pivoting a little bit. doing a lot more equipment leasing, a lot more startup stuff, private equity debt, not private equity, but private equity debt plays, and so on and so forth. But I mean, if it can be logically, fiscally, and morally capable, will write anything that has to do with changing money changing hands.
When you talk about money changing hands, like what kind of borrowers do you see that can get help right now? Because you're dealing with startups, so you're dealing with new businesses. You're dealing on the high end with multi-million, not I'd say probably tens of millions of dollars in financing on the commercial loan side. So if somebody's out there looking for money, they're watching this, like what kind of borrower can you help? What kind of strengths are they looking at, or what is needed for them to be able to start qualifying for loans?
Yeah, so first of all, I like to hear this story. I tell people every conversation I've ever had, I start off and I'll say, look, give me in 5 minutes or less a 5,000-foot overview of your story. I want to know who you are, where you've been, where you're at now, and where you want to go. And within that 5 minutes, they usually answer most of my questions. Now, we were in the middle of a $16 million refi for a owner-occupied office building. And we were on the phone yesterday, and at the end of the day, he sends me a text message at 7 o'clock last night. He's like, yeah, Darrell, we've signed the paperwork, but I need you to justify there's $200,000 in fees that aren't necessarily hidden, but they're at different places in the contract, and none of it makes sense. So I need you to make sense of that, or I'm going to use my 72-hour right of rescission and I'm going to cancel this. And so last night I have company. I have the CFO of a major steakhouse and her husband and their daughter at my house. I'm cooking dinner for them, and they do business with us. They've given us all their business, and so I get right in and I look at the contracts, and I was able to justify everything. These are origination fees, in my opinion, are criminal, but it's the market we've created. But what I see is, or what we do is, we're doing a lot of stuff with the Cafe 125 plan. I'm sure you know what that is, with the wages and tips thing. We're doing a lot of that because it's mailbox money and it's easy and it's moral and it's financially feasible for us to get in and do that. All the way up to, I funded a $80 million piece of vacant land in Malibu last month, and they needed $30 million it's a long story, and I'm bound, I can't say about it, but they needed $30 million, and they got this $80 million piece of land overlooking the ocean in Malibu, and they needed to borrow money against it. They owed nothing. So we do so many stuff. We get so many oddball requests, but that's how we delineate who's who. You learn. I'll give anybody in the world 5 minutes of my time because I'm going to learn something. And I'm going to help change the world, maybe. So, or in at least my little corner of the world. So I like to talk to everyone and hear their story. I do limit it. I have a little, it's in the kitchen. I used it last night, but I have a little egg timer. I show it to them. I say, you got 5 minutes. At 5 minutes, I'm cutting you off. That's what I do. People think I'm crazy. I'm old. I'm senile. I forget things. The only thing keeps me young is I have a 6-year-old daughter. How about that?
I love all those things about you, because you always have been, like, you've always been the guy that gives people that time. And as big as you've gotten, as many businesses you've had, as much money as you've made along the way in exits and helping people, I've just always seen that whenever around each other, conferences or anything, you're always that guy. Well, first of all, a lot of people recognize you, which I think is cool. And the other thing is that you're always that guy that just will stop and give people your time. So it's one of the million things that I love about you. It's just one of the things I appreciate.
And I appreciate you saying that. I'll tell you a really quick story. So from BLBA, there was a guy sitting in the audience, and this is my greatest story. Well, I have a few, but this is my greatest. So I have a guy sitting in the audience at BLBA. You were there, and he comes up and shakes my hand, and hi, how are you? Blah blah blah. And then 2 days later, when we lived in a gated community, and you couldn't get in, right? And 2 days later, this guy is knocking at my door. And in one hand, he has a bouquet of flowers for my wife. In the other hand, he has a $200 bottle of tequila for me. And I'm like, can I help you? And we start talking, and I welcome him into my house, complete stranger. And we start talking, and he says, I need you to mentor me. Southern California, young man, minority. I need you to mentor me. I want to become you. I'm like, well, no, you really don't. But okay, let's see what we can figure out. 3 years later, he did exactly what I asked him to do. I don't tell anybody to do anything. I ask them to do it. 3 years later, excuse me, he makes a phone call. He says, Darrell, how do you determine if you're a millionaire? And I gave him the roadmap, and there was silence. And I'm like, are you still there? He's like, yeah, I'm just thinking. I said, what are you thinking? Because he came from the wrong side of the tracks in LA. And he said, I'm just thinking, I'm the first millionaire in my family. And I'm like, wow, congratulations. And so he took his faith-based family, Catholic. So that tells you they're basically Latino, and his parents still alive, living up north in Sacramento, and he took them on a trip to Europe, primarily Rome, so they could see the Vatican, and that's what he did to celebrate that he was a millionaire.
Wow, that's such a cool story.
Yeah. Anyway.
What is as you sit here today with everything you've done, like what is one of the favorite things or the things you're most proud of that you've accomplished through this journey?
The stats don't need to be discussed, but the stats are immeasurable about how many entrepreneurs have not just used Midas, but used what we created. And you see how rudimentary the beginning was. It wasn't anything fancy. But there are, right now it is said by actually one of the financial magazines that almost 20% of existing SMBs have used some sort of credit card or loan stacking to obtain capital. And as much as 50% of entrepreneurs and startups have used it. Now, you got to remember, there's no money for startups unless you want to go the SBA route or whatever. So it's all on credit card. It's all, and half of them don't have incomes. So it's all about credit card stacking that doesn't require a proof of income. You know how it goes. But it's, they say, this isn't me, this is, and I should be prepared and know exactly who it was and have the article pulled up, that as many as 50% of startups this day and age have used credit card stacking. So think about the magnitude of that. I sure as hell wish I would have understood trademarking back then, because we'd be having this phone call instead of through suburban Gilbert, Arizona. It'd probably be from my house on the cliffs in Barbados or something. I don't know, but and I'll tell you one. I have one more story, and this is less than 1 minute. Is a guy came to me. He's one of my first customers. I gave him $125,000, or I obtained for him $125,000. He asked me at the time. He said, "Darrell, I need every penny to do what I'm doing, and I would love to give you stock in my company instead of paying your $4,250 commission." I said, dude, I'm sorry. Cash is king. I'm a startup business too. I'd only been around 8 months or so. And so he paid me. 3 years ago, he sold it. So he paid me in cash instead of me taking my 5 or 10%. 3 years ago, and you'll figure out who it is, but I'm not going to mention it. But 3 years ago, he sold his business for over $400 million.
Well, a lot of lessons learned along the way. Another opportunity that you could be on the cliff in Barbados. But here we are.
Geez, you know.
But then you wouldn't be here. So I'm still excited to have a chance to talk to you. So sometimes, somehow, a little selfishly, I'm kind of happy those things didn't work out.
Well, I follow you and your wonderful children and your adult life on Facebook. You're living the dream. I love watching it. My wife's like, "Why are you on Facebook? You don't have time for this." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't be on Facebook except for three things. I love seeing pictures of my friends and what they're doing, their travels. I love seeing their pictures of their food or the fancy restaurants they went to or whatever. And I love what I have a couple of friends that I've been with for 17 years. Now their kids are having kids, and I'm sending congratulatory messages to their kids on having a new baby. That gets me so goosebumply. It's insane.
I love it. Darrell, I got to have you back on again. There's so many more things that we can learn from you. And when we wrap up, I'll talk to you about getting you back on the show because I'd still like to continue. But I really appreciate you. Thank you for coming on with us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I apologize for the internet snafu. It always happens at the most inopportune times, but it's been so good to see you. I see every one of your I think there's 10 people that I have the little star, so I see every one of their Facebook posts. You're one of them. And so I just love watching you and your family, and what you've done with Credit Suite over the years has been incredible. And yeah, it's let's do it again, and let's something next time I get to Florida, I'll make a point to come over to Tampa and we'll chat.
Sounds good. And I got to make it to you. Every time I'm in Arizona, you tell me, "Hey, come stop by." And I'm always like in some kind of crazy rush, but I appreciate it. Excuse me. So listen, go to MidasFinancialCompany.com, MidasFinancialCompany.com. Look, this is the guy. This is the godfather that created a lot of the systems you see today in loan stacking, in credit card stacking, one of the pioneers really of the industry. And I remember the stories from the very back in the day where I met Darrell. Even, he was doing this way before we even met, and what he's accomplished along the way, from private equity to so many other different types of alternative business funding in between. And he's really that guy that wants to help everybody that he touches. It's why he's funded billions of dollars. It's why he's helped tens of thousands of businesses. And you can get pre-qualified at MidasFinancialCompany.com. So go to MidasFinancialCompany.com, click Get Pre-Qualified. Then also while you're there, take less than a minute at the bottom right of the page. You're able to access Darrell's social media links, subscribe there, and follow along and see what Darrell and Midas have going on. Because again, you're talking about the pioneers that created it. And now we haven't even dove into the tech that he's dealing with now. He's the most advanced technology I've ever seen when it comes to stacking, and his ability to be able to do what he does now at that level. Of course, you'd think he's the guy that started it, right? So if you want to be able to get funding for your business, whether it be tens of millions on the high end or even to start up capital, all you have to do is go to MidasFinancial.com, and click Get Pre-Qualified. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care and have a great day.